It's look, we've got to be thinking 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years ahead. At the same time, we're focusing on the immediacy, which is life, safety, and property. And so that's exactly what we're doing with disaster assistance, making sure people are getting their applications, addressing the issue of fraud. And that's an issue we've got to address. Price gouging. So executive orders on price gouging, recovery. We want to get inspections, units like this. We want to get our inspection teams out here. They're already starting to get out here. We've come up with some timelines so we can get within the next few weeks all that done so people can get their insurance claims. We can then start the big contracts to remove the debris, to address all the hazmat issues. Same time as I got to button up the canyons here as it relates to potential flooding of a lot of atmospheric rivers. Remember, we're in the middle of winter. This is January. In fact, the day of this fire, not a stone's throw away, it's a crow flies, there was snow right up the mountain here, same day as this devastating fire here in Altadena. And so all those things have to happen concurrently. But here's the big thing. I'm worried about issues of rebuilding as it relates to scarcity, as it relates to property taxes, meaning scarcity of resources, materials, personnel. I'm worried about time to getting these projects done. And so we want to fast track by eliminating any CEQA requirements. I got Coastal Act changes that we're making. I want to make sure when someone rebuilds that they have their old property tax assessments and that they're not increased. So all of that's been done in the executive order we just announced.
CEQA, Governor, and the Coastal Act are both environmental regulations. And if you're going to be suspending those temporarily, are you concerned about problems that may result from the suspension of those environmental regulations and a potential abuse by developers?
Yeah, we're not going to, and within this executive order, we frame those abuses.
Can you imagine that they're talking about as concerns potential abuses by developers in the executive order, which is years in the future? This is such a classic bait and switch in terms of don't look over there, look at this executive order that's going to help you in the years to come, when there's not water in the fire hydrants right now. And I made a joke like, man, he should have just signed an executive order that fire hydrants should produce water. I'm going to play it out because it's classic. This is an iteration of Parkinson's law of mundanity. Here, let's just play this out.
Basically bookmark that in the context of maintaining the existing footprints. The Coastal Act, they allow just a 10% variant. So we're going to be very mindful of that. California leads the nation in environmental stewardship. I'm not going to give that up. But one thing I won't give into is delay. Delay is denial for people. Lives, traditions, places, torn apart, torn asunder, families, schools, community centers, churches. You've seen it. The number of schools that have been lost in this community, and we've got to let people know we have their back. We're going to be back. We're going to do it efficiently and effectively. Don't turn your back. Don't walk away because we want you to come back, rebuild with higher quality standards, more modern standards. We want to make sure that the associated costs with that are not disproportionate.
He's dancing. So I got a new adapter. Okay, let me just go over to locals to make sure. Locals, is it the good mic and my audio is good? Let me see. I'm just going to press play.
And now we're going to try it again, people. Don't worry, I'm coming back. Oh my goodness. I got the new cable. We cannot hear you. Don't worry, people. I'm.
I think they can hear you now.
Can they hear me now? I can hear you. Here, fixed sound. I don't. Doesn't matter. I hear Robert, but I don't see him. Guys, okay, now you can hear me. And let me just go to locals. VIva, we can hear you now. Good, loud and clear. I had to reboot studio. Serenity now. Let me get back into what I was talking about with Gavin Newsom. Did we hear Gavin? We heard Gavin Newsom. I know we heard that because I was listening to it myself. They should have signed an executive order that there should be water in the fire hydrants. I'm not going to play the entire thing. I just want to play the beginning, but also highlight that someone actually posted this unironically saying there's no way you can listen to Gavin Newsom explain the situation and say he is incompetent. I thought the person was going to say, you're right, he's a criminal. The recovery will be long, but he gets that. It's about life, safety, and prosperity. This person was not saying that he's not incompetent to add the humor, he's a criminal or criminally negligent. And like, how can anyone be so intellectually stunted? And then I saw that this person is a DNC delegate, which explained everything. I'm going to play just the first
middle
part.
class community like
What is
this.
this? Here.
You're here with us on Meet the Press to announce a new executive order. What is this executive order? What are you hoping to accomplish?
Pause it. We don't need to listen to this. You're here on Meet the Press to announce a new executive order. What are you going to do in the years to come to make sure that you can solve the crisis of your making today? And he's talking about price gouging and removing the red tape to rebuild so they can get inspectors to go inspect the rubble behind him. It's absolutely criminally negligent. I'm going to get Barnes's take on this, but no water in the fire hydrants. Mark Grobert was on yesterday, and one of our locals members and one of our community members who sends me a lot of good stuff sent me this guy. I forget this guy's name. I should give him the credit. A 35-minute explanation as to what went down in California. I'll play this as an intro, and then we're going to bring Barnes in. Oh, I got to do the ad. We've got our sponsor, coffee, coming up soon. Hold on.
Now for the heart of the controversy.
Yeah, listen to
the
this.
Firefighters ran out of water. After battling the flames for about 15 hours, LA's fire hydrants ran dry. Now they have 3 1 million gallon reserve tanks up high with just gravity feed for pressure to power their hydrants. And that ran out after about 15 hours. Now, 3 million gallons of water is actually not that much. But here's the problem. This is the Santa Ynez Reservoir.
117
right
million
okay?
gallons of water.
This holds 117 million gallons. That means that this could have refilled those 3 1 million gallon tanks over 30 times. And guess what? This was out of operation. And this reservoir has been empty since February 2024, nearly a year.
We can pause it there. Why was it empty? Because there was a tear in the covering, which was allowing stuff to get into the water. So maybe it wouldn't be fit for human consumption. And it was a mild repair, out of commission for a year, 1 mile as the crow flies from the fires. Jokes aside, Gavin Newsom should have just issued an executive order last year that fire hydrants shall produce water during times of an emergency. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that and a lot more. But before anybody gets too enraged, and you want to make sure that you can start a day with good coffee, people. And I can tell you that I started a day with bad coffee today because we ran out of 1775 coffee and we had to drink Jamaican Me Crazy. Not that it was bad, but it was flavored and it wasn't good. This is the coffee to start your days off, people. Hold on one second. That's my problem here. It's delicious coffee. Okay, hold on. Let me pick something up here. Yes, people. It is time to make mornings great again. If your coffee tastes like it was brewed at a UN meeting, watered down, directionless, and catering to the lowest common denominator, enter 1775 Vitality's coffee, bold and built for patriots who lead, not follow. This is one of Rumble's partner companies as well. So you're supporting a company that actually supports free speech, and we've got some news on Rumble as well. We'll get to that. Lion's Mane, Rishi, sharpen your focus faster than calling out fake news, while Cordyceps powers energy like a Trump tweet at 2 a.m. And those hand-picked Bolivian beans are bold, delicious, and amazing.
No fillers, no compromises, proudly backed by Rumble, the platform that stands for truth, independence, and the fight for freedom. Go to 1775coffee.com. Use promo code VIVA. You get 15% off. Make mornings great again with a coffee that is bold, delivers uncompromising quality, and supports the people that we love and the company that we love. Rumble. 1775coffee.com. Promo code VIVA. Okay. We're going to get into it. We're going to get into a lot of things tonight, but I think obviously we're not going to be able to ignore the elephant in the room, which is on fire right now. California. Barnes, you ready to come in? I hear him, and now I see him. Yeah, I went. Marion ordered, and I wanted to make sure that I got a good adapter so that it doesn't fritz in and out. But I'm starting to think it's actually a question of getting logged out for whatever the reason of Rumble Studio. Robert, what's the shirt about?
Making some shirts at merch at 1776 Law Center in support of Amos Miller and other worthy projects, vaccine mandate cases. That was in the news this week, as it appears that the Texas Attorney General is going to have to go to the appellate court to also get any relief as the courts continue to close the doors as much as they can. But and appropriately celebrating with special milk from AmosMillerOrganicFarm.com. Got some cookies for sale that are helping us 1776 Law Center fundraiser, and they're perfect with Amos Miller's milk.
Robert, so on the menu tonight, we're going to talk about the TikTok oral arguments, which I don't know how convincing they could have been to drive the Kalshi market the way they did. I wasn't even following it, but like, holy crap, it went from like 30% chances that they're going to maintain the ban to 70%, and that seems to be where it's at right now. TikTok, California. This is stuff that we didn't get to last week. What else do we have on the menu?
There was, obviously California got preemptive pardons. We got Trump sentencing, how that progressed, what happened at the Supreme Court in that regard, some Supreme Court cases upcoming. And then I think from last week we had a few leftover cases.
Yeah. Well, okay, look, we have to obviously address the big one. I had Grobert on yesterday, and you were on with Grobert on Friday. What's going on in California? And apparently you guys went for 3 hours on Friday talking about this.
Yeah, that and some other topics. Yeah.
All right. I mean, first question first. Let's start with the basics, and we'll get into all this afterwards. Can they be criminal negligence? At what level does this have to rise to for them to be potentially exposed to criminal negligence?
Well, I think if they did really dug in, they would find that this goes substantially beyond criminal negligence. Now, I'd say for the ordinary person, criminal negligence, it varies by the kind of case and the kind of instance and so forth. As a whole, in the American legal system, negligence is not sufficient to criminally punish anybody. Generally, it requires for criminal punishment to apply some degree of recklessness or intentionality. And negligence itself would be insufficient. To me, the bigger problem isn't just sort of they could ascribe it to sort of general negligence of the California governmental structure, and it's how people get hired and who gets hired and all the diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff and all the rest. But I think it goes beyond that, especially as to these issues, because there's been an ideological motivation and incentive to see Malibu burn, and I think that puts it in a different place.
You referenced a book last week. It was called Burn Malibu, or was it just called Burn?
It was Mike Davis has one that's the prominent one, which includes within its chapters about letting Malibu burn, and that's the most prominent one. But the title of the chapter was "Burn Malibu Burn," and then there's other texts out there along the same lines. And it's been a theory. It's been the left basically has thought that resources should not be spent. Especially you add in the hardcore environmentalists, the extreme ones who don't really believe in human beings. I mean, down deep. They think the planet should be for everybody except humans. And you get to that ideological formation, which a lot of the people in positions of power in California believe in. And the reason why there wasn't this big outpouring of sympathy or immediate, remedial action taken is, even though Malibu is a very liberal democratic jurisdiction, as is the Palisades, the powers that be in California ideologically think that it's a waste of resources to try to protect Malibu, and thus burn Malibu burn. That's part of the problem with our system is we allocate too much resources to these privileged populations, and that's where, to me, when this went up the way it did, I think if they dug in, they would find more than government incompetence. They would find an ideological commitment and people looking to profit as well. When you add in that they made it difficult to be insured in these areas, and what that means is that if your house burnt down, you can't rebuild because you don't have any money to rebuild, because you didn't have an insured property, and part of that was done by governmental action as well. The making it difficult. They chose not to lift the rates and continued to refuse to take the corrective steps necessary to limit the risk of what just happened from happening. So to me, the fires are not just the product of incompetence; they're the product of an ideological contamination of the California government authorities and some federal government authorities, who also failed here in the Biden administration.
I got a text that says, I want you to see this chat. It was moving fast. Someone in the community lost their home. And it says, I want to punch Newsom's face. We lost our house. The entirety of Palisades did not need to be decimated. Oh, and he's patting himself on the back. He's got, they've got Palisades 11% contained, but he touts his, successes more before the failures. People in the chat on Rumble are saying the audio is low, but I listened to it and it's fine for me. And I think, I don't know if it's a handful of people or maybe refresh or check your volume. But Chinatown. When was the last time you saw the movie?
Oh, it's been a while. I was going to watch it on Saturday, but got sick this week with a bit of a cold, and shook it loose, but not until today, actually. So it was going to be the movie of the week for the locals board, was going to be Chinatown, because it's been years since I've seen it.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I have to go rewatch it because I was telling Grobert yesterday that I haven't seen it since I was a kid and didn't appreciate it back in the day. But the ideology to let Malibu burn or to cause it to burn, I mean, the systematic failures, they can't be an accident after a certain point in time where one of the latest breaking news is that at least that reservoir, I forget what it's called, but 117 million gallons was out of commission and empty because they were fixing the tarp on the top of it. And that was 1 mile away, elevated, which would have replenished everything. The insurance scandals people are talking about, Grobert went into it about how the insurance companies were flying drones over houses to try to cancel policies by saying, change your roof or we cancel the policies. In your estimation, is there blame on the insurance companies as being part of the conspiracy, or simply making the economical decision to stop coverage because it's not economical anymore?
Well, I mean, the state could have allowed them to lift rates, and the state didn't. So or they could have taken the corrective actions to reduce the risk of a fire becoming like this, which is what the insurance companies were also requesting, which they didn't. So, I mean, I'm not an insurance company fan as a general rule. My view is if insurance is a good idea, they wouldn't sell it to me. So, I'm a skeptic of it by nature. But in this particular instance, government complicity was the far more critical culprit than the insurance companies.
Oh, did I pause you there? No. Okay, fine. Robert, can you bring, some people are saying your audio is too low. Could you bring your mic in a little bit, or is it too?
Sure. How about here?
Okay. We'll see if that's okay. We'll see if that gets better. Okay, it's and now in terms of systematic ideological stuff, I mean, set aside the burn Malibu. You got DEI coming home to roast, as Grobert says. First of all, what has the state been doing with the federal funds that they get for disaster relief? Because some people are suggesting there was no financial incentive for the state to actually take care of these issues, because when they have a crisis, they get federal funds to compensate. What's the truth to that, or what are you able to?
That's only partially the case. There won't be enough funds to fully compensate. So but the state doesn't care because it doesn't care about these populations, even though these populations vote Democrat.
Okay, I want to see if anyone's got any good questions in here. This is Nayoka says, okay, good. This is from locals. It wouldn't be a stream without VIva starting with the technical issues. That would have ruined the experience. I'll get it. I'll get it one of these days.
I mean, there's the issues of, some people had asked about, can you refuse an evacuation order? And it depends on the circumstances. This goes back to the COVID orders, At what point can they force you to leave your home, for example, to force you to abandon your home? And and generally speaking, courts enforce evacuation orders is the short answer, and don't hold government responsible even for mistaken evacuation orders, which is a problem. Because as Gobert pointed out, there was an evacuation order issued in Hollywood that should not have been issued, and they haven't even said who it was that issued it. I mean, this is the problem with complete deference. I mean, the other problem with saying, oh, it's a natural disaster, so now we're going to throw out all your constitutional liberties. The government can now arrest you. The government can now take your property away. The government now can do all these things because, oh, it's a natural disaster. And somehow that makes it a magical exemption from the Constitution. But unfortunately, there is court decisions along those lines.
Another element of this insanity is that the alarms were going off, the alert messages, text messages were going off without any human. They were going off by accident, and they couldn't control it. And
then you have the criminal gangs and the illegals issue, because I mean the reason why can't they fully evacuate? Because LA is a sanctuary city that's protecting all the illegals and protecting all the homeless. So that even though they know the homeless are setting fires, committing crimes, doing a range of bad acts. Same with a lot of the illegals. Some of the illegals fly in to commit a crime and then go home right after the weekend, right from LAX. That's been a problem in the Palisades, in particular now for the last several years. That they've been, it's much harder to commit crime in Malibu because it's this Pacific Coast highway. You're between the mountains and the ocean. So good luck trying to commit a crime without getting caught there. But in the Palisades, they could, and they were. And then as soon as these things started happening, it looks like fires were set deliberately as maybe potential distractions to facilitate criminal activities, organized criminal activities, people going in and robbing homes that had been evacuated before the fires got there, things like that. And so it's a problem they've known about for forever, but because they want to wish cast it to occur. They were not ready and were not willing to do the things necessary to protect the actual citizens and homeowners. And of course, in many of the hotels that were supposed to be used for evacuees, they're full because the homeless and the illegals are there. So it's just a sign of a complete disaster that it has been unfortunately predictable about California for some time. Some of us have been warning about it. I lived in Malibu. For those who don't know, that more than a decade. It originally looked like the house that I lived in forever was gone. It looks like he may have, it was a Mormon guy who owned it. He had specially designed it so that it would have this foam encasement in case of fire around the house. Looks like it worked. It looks like actually his property is one of the few that survived. Other properties that I rented over the years are all gone. Dukes and Moon Shadows, restaurants used to go to all the time, gone. It's just like the memories don't exist. It's just vanished off the face of the earth.
There was talk, James Woods had put out his video. His house was didn't burn, but all of the neighboring houses did. There's talk. How does eminent domain work? Like, what is the government's power or prerogative?
It should be limited, but all they have to do is say a public purpose, and they can take whatever they want, and courts let them do it.
And in terms of the fair market value or just compensation, whatever
they only have to pay you what the value is at the time they took it, and it's generally the lowest value, not the actual like let's say its development value is much higher. You don't get that valuation. The courts have gone out of their way to let the government not only take your property, but take it as cheaply as they can.
And so
it has to be just compensation under the Fifth Amendment. That's all that's required. But just compensation, they've watered down to where it's not just compensation. Let's put it that way.
No, it's armed robbery when it's coming from the government. And when if hypothetically, can they say it's now contaminated and therefore it's absolutely worthless, so we'll take it off your hand and do the decontamination ourselves?
Yeah, they can. They can also foreclose because people will have to owe property tax on property that, like they're discovering in North Carolina, even though their property is destroyed and valueless, which is another idiotic thing the governments do.
I'm going to bring this one up because on CommuTube, the Rumble rants or the Super Chats disappear. This is Beavis Wallace says, Beavis Wallace in the house. Gruber and Roberts spoke about how money was reallocated to illegals and the homeless. Where are the people made homeless by the fires going? Can the government be charged for not caring for our citizens? That's $100 Super Chat.
I mean, it should be, but unfortunately the courts don't allow it. So it's generally not much you can do, unfortunately. It's particularly the courts in California. Now, maybe some courts will reconsider some of the bad law that's been made in the past under the factual circumstances present here, but that's what you would need. Otherwise, it's very now. The plaintiffs' lawyers in California are going to try to blame this on anybody but the government because the government's the hardest party to sue. So they're going to look for private actors that could be sued,
like PG&E for the fires being started in the first place.
PG&E has a history of causing fires to be started throughout California.
I mean, but not to let them off the hook, because I'm sure they've made decisions that have been in their best interest financially, but not the environment's or risk's best interest. Fires in dry land occur. It's the nature of the beast. There's no known. Is there any known, say, not criminal negligence, but prioritizing profits over safety when it comes to PG&E? I'd have no.
Oh yes, for 20 years.
Okay.
They are despised in certain circles for a good cause.
Let me bring this one up here because it's funny. The Engaged Few says, "Of course we heard Newsom. I can easily recognize the sound of bullshit landing on the ground of our feet."
I mean, it is going to do severe damage to his presidential aspirations.
How the fook is Gavin still the front runner in the Democratic nominee on Kalshi, although he has dropped 17 to 13%? I was I to bet against him at 13% there's not enough return there, but
especially you're waiting 3 years for a payoff.
I'm waiting 3 years for people to forget this, and then does this sink any future political aspirations, or
it potentially it'll have trouble for the mayor, the mayor was an idiot anyway. But, Karen Bass, yeah, because she doesn't know how to handle it, doesn't care, pure ideologue, total whack job to be the mayor of a city of like the size of LA. Kind of like what's her name who ended up getting run off from Chicago.
Lightfoot.
Yeah, Lightfoot. So very similar, similar background, similar ideological orientation, similar lack of basic political skills, which she has shown in abundance. And she's tossing the lesbos off the train. The lesbos that she put in charge to run everything. She's said, "Hey, you actually defunded these things." She's like, "You're not supposed to say that. You're gone." And so you'll see some of that. And then we'll see what, whether some ulterior agendas may be present 5 years from now if this property is bought up cheap and somebody gets fabulously rich off of that. But we won't know that for sure. Right now it's speculation for 3 to 5 years. And traditionally in Malibu especially, but in LA in general, it takes forever to get approvals to develop a single home. I mean, as Grobert pointed out, single-family homes are now discouraged from being built at all.
He said that you're not allowed building single-family dwellings anymore, or they don't issue permits because they want communal living. And I said, I didn't realize that when we call it Commie California, it's literally Commie California, communal living. That's
exactly what it is. And people in I told friends of mine to get out about 10 years ago, and some can't because they own restaurants there or their business is based there and so forth. But all those that could got out did get out. I knew people. You could see it coming.
Well, I knew at least people anecdotally who wanted to get out but couldn't sell their houses because no one was buying them because you couldn't get them insured. And it's like, and now I don't know what the situation is that they've burnt down, and I don't think that they have insurance. It's unreal. The eminent domain. The government just has to say now it's a disaster zone, and we claim it, and everybody is thoroughly SOL, which stands for shite out of luck. That's it.
It depends. It depends on how they develop and what they're going to use it for, because and then what compensation would be just if they're going to actually keep it. My guess is they're not going to keep it.
CB over on YouTube. I'm going to get to the Rumble rant in a second. Has there been an event of this magnitude because of this much government corruption combined with this level of media?
In natural disaster, I'd have to think about it.
This is the biggest I'm trying to think of this is the biggest in my life. I don't even want to call this a natural disaster.
Western North Carolina was a complete disaster too. But that was mostly the federal government.
Western North Carolina from the hurricane.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that the funny thing is not funny. It's not funny at all. I can view that as a natural disaster. I view Hurricane Milton as a natural disaster. I view this as criminal negligence. I mean, first, whether or not it started from the fire poles and the high Santa Ana winds is one thing. Then it's arson. Then it's not incompetence. When Grobert explains how they have a known problem of stealing fire hydrants for the value of the metal and they don't replace them, and that they're empty, and that the double speaking liar, whoever it was, I forget, I played the clip yesterday, says, well, yes, because the the reservoir, the 1 million gallon ones emptied out, but those were supposed to be, fueled or funneled into from the 117 million gallon one that's empty. And it's empty. And it was a minor repair. I don't view this as a natural disaster the way you view like hurricanes, tornadoes.
No, that's true. You're right.
But let me what was it? Did I read it here? CB. Okay, let me read the Rumble rants and see if we didn't miss anything, because we're gonna move on to other stuff today. I don't care what the politicians say. Most of these people will never get to rebuild their homes. This is from the Engaged Few. The Coastal Commission will curtail Gavin Newsom says he's gonna cut the red tape. He's talking about preventing price gouging and facilitating rebuilding when the fire is not even contained yet, and it's not clear that they even have water. Of course, we heard Newsom. I got that. How did the banks holding those mortgages allow them not to be insured? My mortgage company requires homeowners insurance. Absolutely. Do we see bailouts coming? That's a fair question, because if these people have mortgages, they don't have insurance. Nobody's getting made whole in all of this. Ribo 95. That was from Tarkina 53. Ribo says, I work as for insurance carrier. We write a lot in California. The insurance board in California handicaps the carriers. They won't let you raise your rates for exposure, so carriers either pull or go non-admitted. High rates. Then we got just seen a news clip. One family saved after home. They had previously gone and bought loads and loads of garden sprinklers, put them all over the house and the ground, plus fire never passed where it was watered. Linda W. PhD, can you see the possibility that the globalist elites have conspired to destroy LA so that it could be rebuilt for the UNWEF 2030? People were saying for rebuild for the Olympics 2028 to make it a smart city because they had all these big plans. I don't think they even have enough time to do that.
No, they don't.
Non-admitted means carrier not backed by state guarantee funds for insurance, and then the rates overall are higher, and the carrier has carte blanche power to exclude and carve out items on the policy. Let's talk about Resnicks and their ownership of most of the water in California. Cali sounds just like South Africa. Third world shithole, says King of Biltong. Karantov says, as a kid growing up by the Ottawa River, I got to see from my backyard water bombers getting water from the river. Very cool. Glad to see them save California today. Not so that it should all be bad news. Let me show you this. This is from an account that says des images impressionnantes. Un immense bravo à nos pilotes et techniciens qui actuellement à l'œuvre en Californie pour combattre les feux de forêt. Vous rendez tout le Québec fier. It says impressive images. Big bravo to all the pilots and technicians who are doing amazing stuff to combat the fires. You're making Quebec proud. I can't imagine anything crazier than skimming.
So they're picking up water when they're skimming like that?
Yep, they're picking up water when they're skimming like that, and then they pinpoint release that water onto the ass. I don't know how they do it, because like I once drove a fish tank to a friend's house, and we had to empty it out to like 3 inches of water, and it destabilized the car to drive with that. And then they scoop it up, they dump it on a pinpoint. And they do it over and over again. They go low flying, and if there's high winds, it's outright insanity. There was another good one here. Let me see if we can pay some tribute to the heroes who are bailing out, or at least attempting to bail out the criminals. Look at this. We don't need the audio. It goes down. And by the way, so they say, why can't they pump salt water? They can't pump salt water through the machines, through the infrastructure, but they certainly could or should have thought about having a saltwater backup in the event that there's dry fire.
Because the environmentalists oppose using salt water for fires. That's why.
And so now they're doing it anyhow.
It's all the ideological crazies of California that the reason why they are not prepared. It's a combination of corruption and ideological contamination that put people in a position where their livelihoods and their whole life estates were could go up in smoke in an hour.
I don't understand how this is physically possible. It's like the water would slow down, and the plane when it touches it, and then they got to pay. It's amazing. So congratulations to the people who are actually helping with this, and not the jackasses that started it. I think we got everything. Let me see if I missed any. Oh, I wanted to bring up a funny meme over on our VIva BarnesLaw.locals.com. It said the police chief is John Candy's relative. Okay.
You see her running, and you're like, that doesn't inspire confidence at all. And so they've damaged they reduced the amount of equipment for the fire trucks and fire based on budget cuts because they wanted to give more money to homeless, pet projects, ideological programs, illegal immigrants, and send it over to Ukraine. I mean, that they've done everything except take care of the people of Los Angeles now for a decade.
It is absolutely astounding. Budget cuts, DEI hires, 20% of their equipment donated to Ukraine, the known problems with the fire hydrants, known empty reservoir during the Santa Ana wind season. It's hypothetically, Barnes, Trump, when Trump gets in, is there some sort of federal investigation that they can look at?
Absolutely.
And so does Gavin need to get his name on the pardon list?
Yeah,
it hasn't been added yet. It's driving me crazy. Okay, well, let's do the pardons before we head on over. We're going to go over to Rumble and vote with our feet, vote with our eyeballs, and I'll post the rest of this to CommieTube tomorrow. Okay. Not that I've been following it obsessively because I may have placed some long shot bets and some investments. I believe that Liz Cheney was undervalued when she was at 17%. I believed Kinzinger was also undervalued because my theory is that if they're going to pardon Benny Thompson, they're going to pardon also Liz Cheney, and I think Kinzinger and anyone, maybe all of the Jan 6 committee. I think Trump, who's currently at 4%, is wildly undervalued because I'm thinking, especially with the sentencing on Friday, and I want to float something by you, that Biden might say, I'll pardon everybody, unification, and everybody on the Jan 6 committee. First question first, we've talked about it. Preemptive pardons. It's a market on Kalshi, and it was under 50% at one point. Will Biden issue any preemptive pardons? It was good. I thought the odds were good at 40, and now it's at like 50, 49. No, it's at 50 some odd percent. People say it's a thorny or unresolved legal question, but my understanding is it wasn't. Nixon was preemptively pardoned when he hadn't faced any. So it's not a thorny, opaque legal question, correct?
No. Not once they pardoned Nixon.
Okay, good. So I feel smart, and I was like, okay, fine. Those odds, it's not the legality that would impede Biden. And then some people are saying, well, he gave a preemptive pardon to Hunter. I was like, yeah, that one is 50-50 because it was sort of based on federal charges that were already filed, then maybe ancillary. So he can issue a preemptive pardon in your view, and I thought that was the case as well. Does he do it? Whom does he do it to? And have you made any predictions on sportspicks.locals.com?
Yeah, I have. I got some picks up there. But the two you mentioned were the easiest ones. Definitely Cheney. I think that's more than a 50-50 proposition that Cheney will get the pardon. Maybe Kinzinger. I don't know about the rest of the committee because I think the rest of the committee isn't that concerned. It's the loyal Republicans who are loyal to the deep state rather than the Republican Party who are going to be looking for protection from any indictment under the Trump administration, in part because they were also, not only did they do the deep state's bidding at the expense of their party and their constituents and President Trump, but they did so also at the expense of the law, and they often violated the rules and violated laws about how they went about it. So I think on those grounds, I would be very surprised if Biden does not pardon Liz Cheney before he leaves office. And there may be some other Biden. Now I'm sure the Biden crime family is going to commit as many crimes as they can right up until inauguration day, and then that's when he'll probably pardon them.
Jim.
So a preemptive pardon is simply preempting an indictment. It is not preempting the crime. So what you probably cannot do is a pardon that says, I hereby pardon you regardless of what you do in the future, that kind of thing. That's where there's more legal debate. Even there's a good argument that you could issue preemptive pardons of future conduct. But that's you would go back to the privateers, right? The people forget about a lot of the so-called pirates, 17th, 18th century, were actually working for governments, and we're called privateers as opposed to pirates. Even if they were wearing the Jolly Roger, they had protection. Well, how did they have that protection? Usually some form of almost preemptive pardon is what was there. That you were doing this at the behalf of the government. Well, it wasn't formulated like a preemptive pardon, but you could say it kind of was one. In practice and effect. So there's an argument that you can pardon future conduct even. That hasn't been tried. Usually a preemptive pardon is past conduct, but the indictment hasn't come down yet, and there's been no conviction yet.
I got to ask just if, specific examples because Benny Thompson, for whatever the reason, has rocketed up within the last day. The two questions here. We've established that you think it could cover state crimes, or there's an argument there, but it definitely covers federal crimes.
Right.
The
current belief is that it can't cover state crimes, but there is an argument that it could.
And you know, even before Benny Thompson, my theory, just working this into Trump's conviction with Judge Merchan, is the judge gave him an unconditional discharge at a state level indictment. There was at least one of the three underlying predicate felonies was a federal crime. I think it was federal election interference, whatever they wanted to call it.
Yep.
Now that he's been convicted, what do you not think there's a better argument for Biden, the unifier, to say, I'll pardon him for the federal element to reduce his exposure for any future potential issues? Because if he was convicted at the state level based on a federal crime as the predicate act, he could in theory be indicted at the federal level. He's going to be the president, but he could do this so that, I don't know, claim some sort of unification type last gesture.
Yeah, I always thought that was a smart move. I thought he should have done that when he pardoned his son, and that would have led to be less focus on his pardon of his son. And he still has time to do that. And he could pardon Trump. He could pardon people in the Republican world. He could pardon Matt Gaetz. He could pardon whomever to try to provide some political cover for the Democratic pardons that are definitely coming.
Does he wait until, procedurally speaking, he's issued a bunch of pardons. Does he wait until the last minute to issue whatever declaration of the pardons?
I think it's going to be a mixed deal. I think there'll be some issued this week, and then some will be issued literally the last day. And I think some of his own family, if he's going to add his own family members, will be the last day.
Mm-hmm. All right, now I'm going to ask you one.
Also, by the way, the Biden family's not bashful. They're out there soliciting. That this is their last grab for cash. So the Biden, the entire family has made money for 50 years on Joe Biden's access to political power. He's about to lose that forever. That means that they're going to be out and about cashing in as late as they possibly can, and he'll want to pardon as late as possible so that it includes anything they're about to do over the last 2 weeks in selling access to the presidency to cash in one last time.
I'm going to ask you one from my own personal perspective, Robert. Sam Bankman-Fried. I can motivated reasoning, and when it comes to Sam Bankman at 5 cents to 5% chance, I've rationalized it to myself. Am I overestimating the political clout that his family had within the Democrat Party?
Well, we're going to find out. Put it this way: if he has dirt that he's been sitting on, then he'll get pardoned. If he didn't have dirt he's sitting on, or they don't believe he does, then he won't be. If he gets pardoned, it means that there was high-ranking Democrats he could have implicated that he didn't, knowing if he kept his mouth shut, he could get a pardon from Biden on the way out.
Because he does still have an appeal. Is he? I mean, his
appeal is still pending. Yeah.
Huh. Interesting. All right. And what might account for the fact that within the last 24 hours, Benny Thompson's chances for a pardon spike? Is there
must have been somebody said something publicly about it. Okay. Thompson doesn't strike me as a guy who's worried that the Trump administration will go after him, but he was chairman of the committee, and that orchestrated a lot of the illegal activities of that committee. So he, Kinzinger, and Cheney would be the most logical people to pardon off that committee.
Okay. Let me make sure there's no questions on this before we move on to a different subject. Let's see here. No. Okay, I'll get to those afterwards because they're not specifically on point. Let me see if there's anything in locals on the pardons question. Okay, no, there's some other stuff. We'll get to all that stuff afterwards. All right, what we're going to do right now, people, because we are going to vote with our feet and vote with our eyeballs. We're going to go over to Rumble or Locals. But here's a link to Rumble. Link to Rumble. Boom. And I'll give everyone the link to Locals if you want to come over and support there and join the...
Yeah, we're discussing, speaking of pardons, President Trump's pardons. And I wasn't sure if I dreamed it. I double-checked it before I got on today. I was like, did JD get into a debate about January 6th defendants, or did I just dream that? And he did get into a debate about it. So we'll have a discussion about who should Trump pardon on the January 6th defendants.
Beavis Wallace says, sweet, innocent Viva. Biden is not going to pardon Trump unless Trump hands over some cold, hard cash. Barnes, how much money would it cost? No, I disagree with everybody, because if he hates Kamala, first of all, he was very, very chummy with Trump. If he wants to use it as some sort of political cover, although some people are saying he no longer needs that. The dude's on his last legs and could do whatever the hell he wants. I think he would want to have it go down as his legacy because he thinks it would enhance his legacy. Yeah. From an arrogant,
it would be a smart political move, and we talked about it years ago that it would be the smart political move for him to make, and I was surprised he didn't make it when after the election he pardoned Hunter but not Trump.
Yeah, and now I say now that Trump's been convicted, he's got the opening.
Yeah, he's got everything that he could get out of all those things, politically and PR wise. The Democrats have got all they're gonna get, so why not? On the way out, look grandiose and try to deter and discourage.
Benevolent.
Look benevolent, the great benevolent Joe Biden, and try to discourage Trump's people from looking any further about a range of things that I'm sure the Biden family would like not to be looked into, and the deep state would like not to be looked into. I agree with Julie Kelly that their behavior suggests they don't think. Norm Eisen doesn't think. Biden doesn't think. A lot of the others, Liz Cheney, some others, apparently don't think they're going to be targets. They're acting. Mershon is real cocky with the way he went forward with that sentencing. Now, as we predicted, Trump would never serve a day in Rikers. Said that was all for political theater.
Oh yeah,
we got proven correct about that.
Well, let's dive into that one when we get over to
we got the Trump sentencing. We got SCOTUS. We got who Trump could consider pardon, and then answering any questions that people have as well. We got Neeboop. Let me just see what the number is. The number's got to get under 5,000. There's still 5,000 people on YouTube. Come on over to Rumble or come on over to Locals. But while we've got the audience there, I will get King of Biltong in the house. Neeboop says, get me in and I will build the wall with my bare hands. King of Biltong says, start your health journey this year with some tasty, high-protein meat snacks. Biltong is packed with B12, iron, zinc, creatine, and more. Get some at BiltongUSA.com, promo code VIVA, 10% off. Did some calculations on the empty Santa Ynez Reservoir. At full capacity, it is enough to supply 13,000 hours of water to a single 2-inch fire hose. See, simply no excuse it was empty. There's no question about that. And then regarding the LA fires, this is from V6 Neon. Then comes the rain and the mudslides. Yeah, we talked about this yesterday. Yeah. They're already planning for it. It's like they've already planned. You hear Gavin talking about that prospect coming up. Get your butts. Good. We're under 5,000. If anybody's watching this on YouTube and you're going to complain that there's a little blurred screen, now's your chance. Rumble, Viva Fry, or Viva Barnes Law. .locals.com, and we are making the migration